TGIF, it's Mantz Mitchell with Gary Mantz and Suzanne Mitchell. A double shot of good conversation with great guests to jumpstart your weekend. Mantz Mitchell, you're on the air.
Welcome to Mantz Mitchell. My name is Lauren Archer, and I'll be your guest host today while Gary and Suzanne are away. And helping me with today's show is our fabulous producer, Benny Mathers. Benny, how are you doing in the studio this morning?
Hi, good, Lauren. Welcome back and good to see you again.
Thank you. It's great to be here in this fabulous setting that you create for us with all this positive energy and positive vibes.
Thank you very much. I'm just missing some of the snowflakes kind of behind me. It seemed to be
no kidding. We've got frost on the rooftops here in Seattle this morning.
Close enough, I guess we can go with that.
Yep. We hope everyone is having a wonderful December morning. And I am excited to share our guest today because, you know, we are in a world where there's so much division. There is so much separation. People are having challenges in family relationships, in love relationships, in professional relationships. Today, we're going to be talking all about relationships from the lens of astrology. The topic of our conversation is your astrological love language, finding true compatibility in relationships. And I'm so excited to introduce you to our amazing guest, Meredith Froemke. Meredith is a master evolutionary astrologer who specializes in love and relationships. She's an intuitive reader, medium, motivational life coach, and founder of Soul Navigation, where she teaches in-depth astrology, moving way past those cliches of sun signs and horoscopes and really getting into those deeper realms of the soul. So Meredith is going to help us understand more about ourselves and those we love in the context of astrology. So welcome, Meredith. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you guys.
I'm so excited. We've got so much to talk about. I want to start out by just bringing up, why is it that some relationships are naturally harmonious and feel super easy, and others are, let's just say, a little bit more challenging and feel hard? And, people hear things about astrology, and I know a lot of people dismiss it outright, but can you help us just set up a little context about what we need to know? What are some of the myths and misperceptions, and how can we look at astrology and the planets and the stars to help us be more compassionate with ourselves and others as we look at relationships? So I know that's a big topic. Where do you want to start?
I love that question, and I can kind of distill it down. I'm a myth buster, and I got involved in astrology over 25 years ago. And it took a long time to see past the stereotypes. It's really quite a lure, to do TikTok astrology, if you will. And Aries and a Sagittarius are supposed to go together, and a Cancer and an Aries are not supposed to go together, and get trapped in those truths, if you will. And I use the word truths with air quotes, because it really isn't true that two signs are not compatible. What the truth is how much do you want to learn? How much do you want to grow inside this relationship? So over the course of 25 years, I've seen every combination you can even imagine. And so I'd love to talk about some of those myths and how to find true compatibility and what it means when you read in the horoscope or you read in the newspaper, oh my gosh, I'm a Virgo and I'm not supposed to be with a Pisces.
Right.
It's just not true.
Yeah. Well, so that brings up that whole notion of when you say, how much do you want to learn? Right. So when somebody gets, they know that their sun sign is a particular sign, and that's all they know about their chart. So how can, what else should people take into consideration as they're starting to explore this?
That is, I love your questions. They're so good, Lauren. Astrology I don't do sun sign astrology. Sun sign astrology is just talking about your sun signs. I do.
Right. Like that means like everybody who's born under the sign of, say, Aquarius, right?
Yes.
It's natural for people to say, well, that it can't possibly be true that
Exactly.
everybody who's under one sign is the same. So,
exactly. Yeah. And, when I got involved with this 25 years ago, I was like, this has got to be a bunch of, garbage. There's no way I am the same as everyone else. So I understand that. And, there's no two charts that are the same. There are no two Sagittariuses. There are no two Virgos that are the same. Even twins have a different chart. And I call the chart, and we have to look at all of the planets in the universe, where everything was at the time you were born. And I call that the blueprint of your soul. It's sort of if you came with an instruction manual or a secret code around who you were born to be in this lifetime, and where all of the planets are in the universe at the moment you were born, where the moon was, where the sun was, where Mercury was, where Venus was, makes a storyline about you and your life. And I'm an evolutionary astrologer, so I'd look at one more thing that is so potent and so powerful, and that is the nodal axis. And that's getting in a little bit deeper, but that's what an evolutionary astrologer does, is they look at that nodal axis so they can also see where you came from and where you are headed.
All right. So I'm going to pause there because we're using words that average people may not quite understand. Yeah. So first, what I heard you say is you're looking at the chart as a blueprint.
Yes.
So when we look at a chart, it's like, it's a little bit like a map, right?
Yes.
So it's a map of the sky at the time a person was born.
Yes. And it puts where they were born as the center of the universe. So it's the sky, it's the universe actually from their perspective.
Okay. And so we're looking at more than just where the sun was.
Yes.
We're looking at where was Mercury, where was Venus, and how all those things relate to an individual. And it's so amazing to me that these things can actually have an influence.
Absolutely. And so inside compatibility, sun sign astrology, or if you go look in the newspaper, they will most often be just referring to your sun sign, where the sun was at the time you were born. And like you mentioned earlier, it's too divisive. It's not unique enough. And that's the truth. So you have to look at where was the moon at the time you were born, and where were all these other planets. And a lot of astrologers and in advanced astrology, they do even more than just the planets, but we won't do that today. I won't do that to you today.
Well, yeah, I know it's like we could go so deep because, Meredith, just for full disclosure, is a dear friend of mine and has been doing readings for me for years. And I find it super valuable. It's amazing. So I can't hardly wait for her to share. So I want to talk about, let's talk about relationships and what planets or nodes or what things do you look at in somebody's chart that will give us a clue in terms of their how they love and how they connect with others. What are some things that people can start wrapping their brains around?
I love that. And so the first thing I would tell a person is, and a lot of young kids are using CoStar. So you would be shocked at how many people know exactly where all their planets are just from the app CoStar. But they should really get their chart, their whole entire chart. And the chart is where all those planets were at the time they were born. So what's really interesting, here's another myth that I have for you. And that is a lot of astrologers or, I should say, when you first start out in astrology, you think to look at Mars and Venus, just like, Dr. John Gray, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and there is truth in that. However, as I'm getting older and wiser, I've learned to really look at the planet Mercury, because at the end of the day, Mercury is the planet of communication. At the end of the day, if your Mercury is not in harmony with your partner's Mercury or their communication planet, you're not going to be able to express your Mars and Venus. So your Mars is your sexuality, your Venus is the love planet. And a woman's chart, if she's heterosexual, her Mars will be the type of man she's attracted to. And for a man, his Venus and his moon will be the type of woman he's attracted to. That's in a heterosexual couple. So, and I could do it in reverse too.
Yeah,
so,
and we could go down a path of gender too, and how where your planets are and how they relate to each other
matter.
Influence, it matters. How you express your masculinity or femininity. So, just for the record here, we embrace all expressions of gender. But yes, please continue.
And so if you are a gay man, let's say, and you like other men, then you're going to look to your Mars to see what you are sexually attracted to. So it's quite complex. But for just people listening, I would really look at where is your Mars? Where is your Venus? Where is your moon? Where is your sun, of course? And then I would look at the expression of all of that is going to lie in your Mercury. So you really have to look at what signs these planets are in. And then for your partner, what sign their planets are in as well, and see how they interact. And then I can give you a little tiny cheat sheet on what goes well with each other if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on your website, which we'll circle people back to, but soulnavigation.com, you have beautiful charts that people can download themselves. They can do a little DIY, right? And then you've got some of the interpretation in there. So just for those looking to have this done, I don't know if now's a good time, but I kind of want to slip a story in here.
Okay, good. Please.
I want to slip in a story of my partner, Christian, and I. We've been together 11 years now, and I came to see you during this one little window of time when we had first started dating. We were only about 9 months into our relationship, and we broke up for a little while. And I had this appointment scheduled with you, and I said, don't bother looking at his chart because we broke up. And luckily you didn't listen to me and you pulled it up anyway. And you looked at some of the different compatibilities and you said, it is rare. You are probably not going to find this level of compatibility. And so when I look at that and I see where it is, so I look at, he has Mars, Venus, and Mercury all in Pisces. And my moon is in Pisces. Mm-hmm. And to me, so I actually wanted to look at that when I was first dating him, because it's like, is this person too good to be true? Because he was so gorgeous and so accomplished and so, really a good communicator. And I was like, is he, BSing me? Is this like some sociopath who's telling me a lie? Am I going to get hurt? And by looking at those things and seeing that it's in Pisces, what that said to me is, here's someone who has very high ideals, who wants something that's really kind of dreamy and wonderful. So no, it's not BS. It's authentic. So I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit about how we can look at those things.
I love that story because it's exactly what I was talking about. So you had just said that his Mars, his Venus, and his Mercury are in Pisces, and your moon is in Pisces. So what that says is, right there, that is just the jackpot. I also know that you have a sun sign compatibility in addition to that. Mm-hmm. But when you get something like that, like I have chills right now with you just repeating it, it is so rare. So this man, his sexuality, his love capacity, and his mind, his communication, so that's Mars, Venus, and Mercury, are all going to sit in perfect alignment with your heart. Mm-hmm. And that is rare. So you are going to feel, for the most part, emotionally gotten, with this man. And so, of course, I was like, no, we can't throw this relationship away. We've got to try again. Let me give you some tips and tools and insight into where he's coming from. And so
Yes.
we not only salvage the relationship, here you are happy and in
Yes.
love, and you have one of
Yes.
the most beautiful relationships I've seen in real life, not just on astrology paper.
Yeah, so true. So those tips and tools, that is the value there too, I think. So when people are either challenged in a relationship or, wanting to understand more about their relationship, they can come to you and you can take a look at, because what if somebody's in a relationship and the planets aren't, lining up quite like that? How can you help give them some information on how to make it work? Because so often what you just said, we're so quick to throw relationships away.
Right.
But there's much more we can learn.
Yeah. And some people feel like love isn't supposed to be hard. You're not supposed to have to work at love. Well, if you get a chart that just really doesn't have a lot of tentacles into the other person's chart, if your planets don't make a lot of aspects to the other person's planets, you're going to probably have a lot to learn. This is going to be a growth relationship. Not saying yours isn't. I'm just saying that I look at those challenges as, let's don't throw this away, but let's learn what the lessons are going to be that you're going to have in this relationship. And then let me ask you, are those lessons you want to learn? And some people are like, no. And other people are like, I don't mind that lesson. I'll learn that lesson.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I do is on YouTube, I teach real astrology and I go into the depths of real astrology way past your sun sign. If I just looked at your sun sign, if you don't mind me saying, you're an Aquarius, he's an Aries, that goes really well together. But that's not going to show us any of the challenges that you were feeling. We have to look deeper into the challenges. And so what astrology really does is it builds compassion, thoughtfulness, sympathy, and empathy, and ultimately the ultimate forgiveness for another person's human flaws. That's what I love about it.
Oh, I'm getting chills. Yeah, that is so beautiful. And this can work in family relationships, in business partnerships. I mean, it's wonderful for love, but just understanding those compatibility things. So, I know it's a huge question. You can't summarize all of the signs, but are there some general rules of thumb when we're looking at relationships? What are the first couple of things that people should look for in a chart?
I would say, let's just talk about signs, not necessarily planets. Okay. So the signs go through the zodiac, Aries through Pisces.
Okay.
And if you're just wanting to, take your chart and take their chart and say, okay, are these compatible by sign? It gets deeper than that, but we won't go there. You have to look at aspects too, but we're not going to look at aspects today. That's too much. But here's a quickie little way to memorize how the signs go together. So we know that signs like their own elements. So fire signs like fire signs, water signs are compatible with water signs, earth signs are compatible with earth signs, and air signs are compatible with air signs. That's easy to remember. But the other compatibility is air signs like fire signs. And if you think about how you build a fire, you cannot build a fire without a little bit of air, right? You can't just stack your logs with no air and make a fire. So air loves fire. And we know that earth loves water because it takes water to grow something in the earth. So that's a great way to just go, whoa, we've got compatibility by sign at the very least. And so let's say your Mercury, your Mercury and my Mercury are not compatible. But don't you have Mercury in Aquarius?
Of course. I'm just about everything in Aquarius. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. And I have Mercury in Scorpio. So that's air sign and water sign. Those do not go well together at all. However, and that's my husband's Mercury too. And I married him.
Right.
But we have so many other things that are compatible. For example, my Mercury, the way I communicate, resonates with your heart, your Pisces moon. So that's where we connect. And we do have a heart connection. We also have a cerebral connection too. But see, I have a connection to you through your heart. So I can probably be a person who opens up your heart or touches your heart or moves your heart with the way that I speak. Is that true?
That is totally. Yeah. So that's, I
So,
mean, just knowing those little things, it's so enlightening. Please continue.
well, what I was going to say is, so you can take those primary planets. So that's going to be the sun, moon, Mercury, Mars, and Venus. And you can see if you've got them in compatible elements to the other person's. So it doesn't always have to be your two sun signs are compatible, or your two Mercuries, or your two Venuses, or your two moons. But our moons, and I should say, but when your moons are compatible, it is really felt. And when your minds, your Mercuries are compatible, it's just like pop rocks. Now, one of the interesting things about people who have incompatible Mercuries, like me and you and I are both people who desperately, it's our mission to grow, to learn about differences. You and I are both uniquely like that. So you could see why us not having compatible Mercuries would be something that we would both maybe sign up for, because it's in the nature of our growth work. Does that make sense?
It does. So I want to interpret that. So it, whether or not someone has compatibility does not mean the relationship doesn't work. It means it's an opportunity to grow, to learn, to, become even more by being compassionate with the other.
Yes. And learning something really different.
Yeah.
And if you're a person who likes to grow, you will love those incompatible pieces of your synastry. We call two charts together synastry.
So when you compare them, you're looking at one with the next. So that's a synastry. I love that. Just to reinforce, so the planets that you look at, and so I heard you say, the moon is like your heart. Can we go into that a little bit more? Like the moon represents heart. What else?
It also represents your mother. So your moon sign is going to tell you the story of your mama. And that's a pretty big deal. So I'll give you another little trick to look at in the chart. Look at your sun sign and look at your moon sign. And if there's harmonious, the earth and water, fire and air, or the same element, it was probably an easier mother relationship to have. But if it's in a perilous place, if you will, if it doesn't have compatibility, if your moon doesn't have compatibility with your sun sign or any of those planets, it was probably a really challenging mom relationship. And that's kind of important, because your mother relationship is your primary love source for the first 7 years of your life, hopefully.
Right.
And that's going to shape the whole rest of your life. So, nature versus nurture. Astrology isn't everything. It just shows you the probable story that came out of your experiences in life. And then, of course, your free will has a play in that as well. So somebody who has a moon sign that's not compatible in their own chart, hopefully they can find a partner that brings real love, brings positive synastry to their moon, right? Sometimes you find your healing agent outside of your own chart.
Fascinating.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you said I'm not sure if you use the words, it's not predictive, but the best analogy I've heard is that your astrology, I mean, it's a little bit like it's kind of like the weather report. It's information that's there, but you still have a choice.
Absolutely. So if we know it's going to snow today, which I call it snow, you said frost. I'm with Benny. I woke up and said, it's snowing. And Joe said, it's frost. Anyways, if we know it's snowing outside and I don't set you up for, hey, Lauren, it's snowing outside. Let's pretend you're my child. I'm the mother. And I just send you out there and you're in your bikini thinking it's a sunny day. I don't set you up to have as many choices. I kind of set you up for a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
knowing your astrology allows you to be set up in your own self for your gifts, your natural gifts, and for what's going to be a little bit challenging in your life. And, I have a Mercury in Scorpio, so I love looking at challenges. It's a little bit of my problem because I don't look at a chart and immediately go, oh, you have this blessing and this blessing and this blessing. I feel like the person probably already knows that. I think they want to be in touch with what's not working right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is so exciting. I want to, let's continue for just another minute or two on the notion of the planet. So the moon is like your heart, and it also represents the mother.
Yes.
And then let's take a moment on Venus and Mars, and then we're going to go to break.
Okay. Venus is what you value. Venus is your relationship to beauty and your relationship to aesthetics, your relationship to Venus is going to show me what's important to you. It also has a secondary meaning in the chart where it is your money, it's your financial resources. But it is your worth in life and how you perceive your own worth. So in your own chart, if your sun and your Venus, let's say, are incompatible, you struggle a little bit. This lifetime is going to be about you finding your worth, knowing that what are your resources and also your preferences, what you like, what is sweet to you, what makes you feel comfortable and happy. You have to think of Venus as the sugar in the chart. Right.
I love it. And the archetype, right? This is an archetypal language. So Venus, the goddess of love. So that makes sense. You can think about it represents within you what you love, what you appreciate, what you value. Okay, that's clear.
And you can see high Venus people out there in the world because they lead with love. They're usually beautiful. They're creating harmony and peace. They hate conflict. And if you have a really big Venus, that's Venus with a V, you are probably conflict avoidant. So too much of a good thing, just like too much sugar, right, is not a good thing.
What would a really big Venus mean?
A really big Venus is Venus rising, Venus in positive aspect to everything in the chart, Venus out of bounds. We didn't talk about out of bounds planets, but that's just sort of like Venus on steroids. If all your planets lead into Venus, if Venus is sitting right on your sun and your Mercury, so having a really big Venus. So Venus is tricky because, my teacher once told me it's like margaritas. One margarita is great, but 20 margaritas can kill you. So too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Yeah. And just quickly moving on to Mars, Mars is your life force energy. So I talk about it like this way. Mars is sort of, it's your life force energy. It's what I would call, I know it is the god of war, but I like to talk about it in a more pragmatic term. It's a knife. If you're stranded on a desert island and you can bring one thing and you bring a knife, you're bringing Mars. So Mars is a weapon and a tool. And it is what is keeping you alive right now. It's so important because it is your life force energy. And when you took your vitamins this morning, you were probably coming from a Venus. I value that, but Mars, I want to live. So Mars has a big torque to it and it has a big power in it. And so if you have a big Mars, you're probably coming in with the knife as a weapon rather than a knife as a tool. So Mars is a really, funny, it's a funny thing. And people who have a soft Mars, you can tell. And people who have a loud Mars, you can feel it. So Mars is also the warrior inside of you. It's the part, if Lauren, you and I were walking down a back alley and somebody tried to take advantage of us or accost us, we would show our Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So this is helping so much. We're going to take a short break, but I want to come back and explore more of how we can understand what each of these planets, these archetypes mean and what it represents inside of us. And we're going to go into more detail. So this is Mantz Mitchell. We're going to be right back with Meredith Froemke after a short break. You're listening to Mantz Mitchell on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Staying connected with Gary Mantz and Suzanne Mitchell is easy. Just go to mantzandmitchell.com for the latest info on topics and guests. Friend Gary Mantz and Suzanne Mitchell on their Facebook pages and like the Mantz and Mitchell show page at facebook.com/Mantz and Mitchell. If you're on Twitter, share a follow with Gary and Suzanne at Mantz Mitchell. Join Gary and Suzanne Friday and Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. for an unusual show that covers everything from personal growth to the paranormal.
Here's an amazing act. Here's a tremendous act. Here's a startling act. The amazing, the thrilling, the greatest, spectacular, incredible, exciting, wonderful, world famed, most unusual novelty act.
The home of the A-Team of Alternative Talk is mantzandmitchell.com. Heard right here on Alternative Talk 1150 AM or streaming live from your computer anywhere.
Terry Loving wants to help you with your online marketing challenges right now. She has several courses she is giving away to help you get your business working for you online. Yes, giving away. WordPress websites are her specialty, yet her technical skills go way beyond that. Check out her blog at terryloving.com or email her directly at terry@terryloving.com. That's terry@terryloving.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Anson Williams from Happy Days, and I'm so excited to tell you about American Road. It is the best car travel magazine in the world. They have the most fantastic adventures detailed in each magazine with all your itinerary. We could just jump in the car with your family and have the most fabulous adventures you've ever had in your life. Please, get a copy of American Road and start your own adventure.
I'm Gary Mantz.
I'm Suzanne Mitchell.
We're a couple of baby boomers who bring you a talk radio mix of metaphysics and music, politics, and pop culture.
And you never know which celebrity will join us for an interesting conversation.
Mantz and Mitchell is Boomer HQ, Friday and Saturday mornings at 10 on 1150 AM KKNW.
Your home for alternative talk in Seattle and Western Washington.
Exploring new territory every day. This is Alternative Talk 1150.
Cause you're a sky full of stars.
This is Mantz Mitchell. My name is Lauren Archer, and I'm your guest host today. And we have been talking about your astrological love language with evolutionary astrologer Meredith Froemke of Soul Navigation. Meredith, before we continue, how can people learn more about getting their own chart done? And can people contact you to get a personal reading and learn more about what we're talking about?
Absolutely. You know, I have a team of readers. My calendar is it books up fast. But if you want a personal reading or you want me to look at your chart or somebody from my team, you can just go to Soul Navigation, SOUL navigation.com. And if you want a chart or a report, the starter package is a great way just to see where your planets are and get the little report on what it all means. And you can just click the shop tab. But if people really want to learn, they can get their natal chart from my shop, and then they can go over to my YouTube channel, just Soul Navigation, Astrology and Tarot. We do tarot readings too. And they can start learning. They can become a member for $2 and get all my behind the scenes, my more technical videos. And you will see you can learn pretty fast with all of my videos. And we go a little deeper than just sun sign astrology. And if I could give one message to anybody out there, if you've just sort of been stuck in sun sign astrology, I want you to know there's so much more to it. There's just so much more to it. And when you look at horoscopes, you really have to look for your moon sign. You have to look for your rising sign. You have to look at the horoscope for your sun sign. So not just your sun sign.
Yes. Well, I've just got to put in a kudos to you for how you have created such valuable teachings, all available for free on your YouTube channel. And that's Soul Navigation on YouTube. Meredith has gone through Mercury through the signs, or, Venus through the signs. I mean, you can really drill down and get into detail. And so I'm just so impressed with what you have created in terms of education for people. So if you had one tip to give people about even just, how to find out if you like somebody, if you're going to get along, what would be the one tip?
The one thing that I've found through, thousands upon thousands of readings, and you can feel it. So I want you to test my tip or my trick. And that is that when you meet somebody who you really like, go look at their moon sign. And really like, I cannot believe how well this person I don't even know why I like this person. Like one of those things. They probably have the same moon sign as you. So wow. I'll just tell you, it is impossible. It's close to impossible to not fall in love with, and I'm talking, grandparents to small children, puppies, and your niece, your nephew, friends, strangers, the mailman, it doesn't matter. So when I say fall in love, I just mean fall in love with the spirit of a person who has the same exact moon sign as you. It is really tough. Like if you don't like a person who has the same moon sign as you, then they have something else really big in their chart. But it is almost impossible to not fall in love with your own moon sign, because that's your heart.
A great tip. I love that.
More so than your sun sign. You're not going to like every single Aquarius out there. Mm-hmm. You're just not. But it's going to be hard for you to not fall in love with a Pisces moon sign.
I love that. Well, so we're talking about, Aquarius, Pisces, Scorpio, these types of things. Can we just take a minute and go through each of the signs, starting with Aries, giving people a sense? One of the things about the signs for me, I think of them as like characters in a play. They all have an archetype. So can you tell us a little bit about what is an Aries, and what do we need to know, or what are some of the upsides? And then just quickly, I know that's a big ask.
Yeah. And of time. Distilling the whole entire sign down to one word is really tough. So I might not pick the very best word off the top of my head. And I don't have this planned or scripted or anything. So this is just coming from my heart. But I do 1 hour videos on each of the signs.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, let's send people to Soul Navigation on YouTube. Yeah. Check out the videos, because you can really go deep. Yeah.
Yeah, go deep. But we can do one word archetypes for sure. And so I would say with Aries, this is going to be the maverick. If you're an Aries, you are going first at something in your life. You are first out. Think of those brave pioneers that moved from New York City all the way to Oklahoma. The guts it took. And they had nothing. They had no resources, really. So the bravery of Aries is the standout. For Taurus, I would say it is the stable builder. These people can build something from the bottom to the top, and they can grow things slowly, and they have steadfast patience. Gemini, I would say, is the great networker. If you're so lucky to have a Gemini in your life, they're probably connecting you to everything. And Cancers, I would say, is the mother archetype, but it's the nurturer. So I want you to think about you in the hospital, and the nicest nurse comes in and says, "How can I make you feel better?" That's Cancer. And Leo, well, I would just say, gosh, Leo is the kind of the creative, the masterful creative, sort of the David Copperfield on the stage, or Cher. It's the superstar creative, the person who has great self-expression that wants to be seen through their creativity and to create. It's kind of interesting. It goes a little bit deeper than that with all of them, but with Leo. And that is, think about making something out of nothing to create the creation of life. So Leo's pretty powerful that way. And then Virgo is, we could say the perfectionist, we could say the critic, but I like to talk about it. And I'll just tell you, my channel is dedicated to Virgos, because I think Virgos get really deeply misunderstood. And I would say they are about self-mastery and becoming the true mentor in life. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. And then we've got Libra is the diplomat, the great negotiator. I kind of consider Libra like the Rubik's Cube. They are so brilliant. They too are misunderstood, like, oh, they're the relationship sign. No, not just that. They are the chess master. So I call them the knight in the chess game, up two and over one, or over two and down one. They can see around corners. Wow. Scorpio is the transformer. And so they go where angels fear to tread. Like they go in, they're the Ghostbuster, Wow, yes. And they will transform energy. They are great healers that way. Sagittarius, I say they are the Dalai Lama meets Indiana Jones, truth crusading through life. What is the truth and maybe the quester? Then I would say Aquarius is the great humanitarian, and they are here for kind of to save humanity. Capricorn is, wow, how do I describe Capricorn in one sentence? They are too a builder, but they are the master. Capricorn is here as the wise master, really learning how to operate in this world, in this dimension, and creating tangible, successful results that put them at the front. Success is sort of what they wear on their forehead. And then with Pisces, I would say they are one with the cosmos. They're here to understand the cosmic energy in the world beyond this earth. And so there's a great visionary, and Pisces is quite nebulous. It's hard to describe, but when you meet a Pisces, you will see the cosmic energy inside of them. So that's my quick take.
Thank you. That is fantastic. So for our listeners, I want you to get a sense of what you just heard, right? So that was just a little bit of a taste of some of the energies of each of the 12 signs in the zodiac. And then what we had been talking about earlier are the planets. So you can think of the signs as being the archetypes of, the energies, but the planets wear those signs like a costume, right? So we could have Venus wearing an Aries is very different than Venus wearing a Libra. So do you see where we're going with the complexity of this?
Absolutely. I love that, Lauren. So the planets do something, and then the signs show you how they do it. So that's perfect, or what they look like, or how they feel on. And so you're absolutely right that. And that's why. And then there's another layer too, which we won't go into, but it's houses. And you can only know the houses if you know your birth time. And so knowing your birth time is really important. So I invite all the listeners out there to go and get your birth time before you go and get a gorgeous natal chart from my shop, soulnavigation.com. And I love my charts. You can go get a free one on the internet. That's no big deal. But on my charts, I show you so much more than you'll get on a free chart. And it's so much easier to read. It's kind of takes a minute to be able to read the wheel. It's complex. It's going to have the entire solar system that you're going to be looking at. But one of the things I wanted to say is, if you're listening to this later, you can rewind and go back to those different descriptions that I made about those signs. So let's say you have an Aries moon. Well, you have that maverick heart, but let's say you are a Pisces. Well, now you have a relationship with the cosmos, with the universe, with life after life, with reincarnation, with your soul. And so how do those two things work together? Maybe you're an Edgar Cayce, where you're making inroads, blazing new trails like a pioneer into understanding the universe or the world or energy or chakras, with making incredible discoveries around that subject. So you have to blend the two to understand you.
Yeah. And there's going to be contradictions sometimes, right? People will have contradictions. You've got, these kinds of energies that are leaning towards softness and gentleness and love. And then these kinds of energies that are more fire. And then how do you even deal with that within yourself? And then with relationships. So yeah, it is quite complex.
And the masculine signs produce something. They're the extroverts. They go outward. And then the feminine signs are introspective and introverted. And so another quick trick for that is you can just go around the zodiac and you can figure out, are you a masculine sign or a feminine sign? And you can just say, inward or outward. But so Aries starts with masculine, then Taurus is feminine, then Gemini is masculine, Cancer is feminine, and it goes like that around the zodiac in order.
Mm-hmm. I love that. When we first started, you started going down a path, and I think I pulled you back because I didn't want to go too deep, but you mentioned evolutionary astrology and the nodal axis. So for those listeners who are a little bit more advanced, and I know the Mantz Mitchell audience, we've got some really intelligent explorers out there. There is something called the North Node and the South Node in the chart. So can you help us understand a little bit about your perspective as an evolutionary astrologer? What does that tell us about where we came from in this life and where we're going?
Well, those who believe in reincarnation, that the soul never dies, the soul lives eternally, and this body is just on loan to us in this lifetime. That's me. And I believe that your South Node shows your previous lifetimes and the lessons and the challenges that you faced. I also believe it shows how you left those lifetimes. And then the North Node, I believe, is your North Star and where you're headed in your next lifetime. And you will start to dabble with that energy in this lifetime. And depending on where it's at in your chart, you might not be very good at your North Node. You might not have any support for your North Node in your chart. You also might have your North Node on your sun sign. And so this lifetime would be shaped in a very unique way because it's also what you are trying to learn for your next lifetime. And the North Node, this is how I describe it. I describe if I put you out in the middle of the ocean on a raft and there were no lights around, there was no land anywhere. And then off way out there, you saw a lighthouse with a red light as your beacon. And you knew, if I want to get off this raft and to shore, I have to follow that beacon. That is the North Node. That's the calling in your chart. That's sort of the ache. So that's not who I'm being right now. That's what I need to develop in myself and become. And so I've done full 2-hour readings just on the nodal axis, not even looking at the sun sign. And a client has said to me, how do you know me so well? Like, how do you know this? You haven't even talked about me being a Leo. And it's because that nodal axis is so profound. That's where all the secrets lie, in that nodal axis.
Wow. It's astonishing how we can learn so much about ourselves and relationships and connect and communicate with others. So what if more people had this information? How might it change how we relate to others? I'm thinking about, can we be compassionate when we learn that somebody, for example, has Saturn aspecting something about their emotions and, are closed down and they just don't have the capacity to share in a certain way. I don't know. I'm just tossing that out, but.
Absolutely. But you can also, it's also a really good indicator if that's a relationship that is even worth having for you. Like you can save yourself a lot of headache and heartache too, just by saying, I can't deal with that. I can't grow that. But I do think knowing my child's chart has made me a better mother. I will tell you, I gave birth to somebody who is so opposite of me. And I guess God knew I could handle it because I was an astrologer. But if I did not have astrology, and by the way, I sell a phenomenal child's report that just saved my bacon enough so many times. I have a 16-year-old and she's just quite different than me. And so this really learning her astrology allows me to parent from her needs, not my projections of what I think she needs.
Wow.
And so
that's available in your shop, right? The child report.
Yeah.
And didn't I hear you say you can even run that on yourself?
Oh gosh, I did. I ran that on myself. And what I found out and what I loved is, and it almost brought tears to my eyes because it was so accurate. I got to see, again, I got to kind of re-experience who I was as a child. Like, wow, I did have a big imagination. Wow, I was interested in esoteric things that kind of got squashed out of me at that time, and so it was really a gift to myself to read that report, that child's report about me, as an adult, because it allows you to have compassion for your own self and where your natural gifts lie. And a lot of people have gotten their natural gifts kind of squashed out of them due to not just cruel parents, but life.
Right. Well, society, culture, we have so much of an emphasis on left brain, linear ways of thinking, external measures of success, that often the right brain, the creative, the spiritual, the soulful gets pushed aside. So having this information is like learning another language, but it's an archetypal language. It's a language of the heart and a language of the soul. And it can give you another way to understand yourself and those you love. So I want to make sure everybody, once again, knows how to find you. And it's soulnavigation.com. Anything else you want to share about, what you've got available in your shop?
Gosh, I have tons. But the first thing I do want to say is the gorgeous natal chart I made it affordable for everybody because that's where you would start. Now, you wouldn't necessarily be able to know how to read that. So you probably need to buy a report to go with it. I think my most popular report that kind of just flies off the shelf and it makes a phenomenal gift too is the Lover's Package. And in the Lover's Package, you get your chart, your partner's chart, and then you get their whole deep natal report, like who are they in the world? And then you get yours. And then you get the synastry between the two of you. Like my moon does this to your moon, my moon. And it's quite complex because if you think about it, you've got the two luminaries, the sun and the moon, and then you have all of the planets. And you have to look at how my sun goes with every single one of your planets. And what does that mean? And then how your sun goes with every single one of my planets. And so in the Lover's Package, that report for the lovers is really cool because it shows me how I affect you and how you affect me. It shows me you from your perspective of me. So it's kind of cool. So it's a great tool.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I didn't even know that was available. So it's like taking the invisible, the unconscious in these character traits and making it visible, making it explicit so that you can work with it and see and learn and be more compassionate. Oh my gosh. That is so amazing.
I do love that so much. And you can run a lover's report on somebody who you're not in a sexual relationship with, just somebody who you love.
And still get information. Yeah. What about working relationships, working partnerships? I'm thinking, for example, I'm working with a gentleman who has all this Leo in his 7th house, and my North Node is in Leo. And and I remember you telling me you need a Leo to help you, and
they're going to
forth that North Node.
You're going to love them, but they're going to drive you nuts because they're your opposite. So let's talk about that super fast.
Okay.
So you can just, you can kind of just cut the zodiac in half after Virgo. So if you put it in order, cut it in half after Virgo and then realign it. So Libra is the opposite of Aries, right? Scorpio is the opposite of Taurus, and on and on. Sag is the opposite of Gemini, and on and on. And so when you meet your opposite, this is now this is not necessarily a hard aspect. However, it's like this person has the things that you don't have. So you're looking at your own shortcomings when you meet your opposite. So this Leo partner of yours probably has a flamboyance that you might not have. You are more reserved. Probably. Am I right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a level of being able to connect, I think, with all my Aquarius, right? It's harder for me to connect relatedly, and watching the ease with which this person like initiates relationships and connects. All his Leo stuff happens to be in the 7th house, but we're not going to go there, but you know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
Yeah. But yes.
So you're working with somebody who came out of the womb oozing charm.
Yes. Yes. Right.
And
I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah. We have to learn what charm is. We have to go to charm school. They're teaching charm school, right?
Yes. Yes.
So your opposites are really important teachers for you. But just really quick, just to give a last little trick or hack, that is find your North Node. Then go out there in the world and find a person who is of that same sign of your North Node. And that is your greatest teacher in life.
Meredith, you are so wise and so compassionate and such an amazing teacher. Thank you so much for sharing this. I know it's a ton of information and we could only scratch the surface. So I want to remind people they can go to soulnavigation.com and find you on YouTube, Soul Navigation. Any closing words before we sign off for the day?
Well, I just really appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you, Lauren. I love you and I love this show. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Benny, I want to thank you too for being the master engineer in the studio. And
pleasure, ladies. Pleasure.
Yeah, I've had so much fun guest hosting for Gary and Suzanne. I hope they're off having fun. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Have a great week and join Mantz Mitchell next week on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.